I'm Chloe, Vice President of House of Codes, and I'm gonna go over continuously about the functions in Python for about the first half or 1/3 of the class, and then later my friend and also another vice president, Clara, she will be going over more about Python Turtle, which is making graphics in Python. So yeah, let's get started. Today, I will be using and sharing my screen of using Replit. I'm gonna code with you guys together since the second half, the turtle part, I don't think Google Colab will allow me to use that. So I'm just gonna type in my REPL and you guys can follow me along. So yeah. So first, as the same website, replit.com, which I will be sending in the chat. If go to this website, and if you haven't created an account, just sign up. And if you need to, the first time users, just try to get used to it and then create a repo to get ready for the class. I'm sorry, but my settings said I have to leave Zoom in order to allow to share my screen, so I will be right back. I apologize for that. Okay, here we go. Yeah, sorry for that, a little delay, but I hopefully everyone opened your own Replit as well, own REPL. And then, yeah, now it's officially starting our class. So first, let me list some of the points we want to go over for today's class about the part about functions. So first, we're going to review, or because last week I only briefly talked about the functions, so I want to kind of review a little bit with what we covered or what we should cover last week. First, we're gonna learn how to just basically start a function, write a function. How do you define it? How do you add codes inside it to make it actually what you want it to be? And also, we're going to learn how to call the function. This part is actually when you're going to make the function actually work. It actually runs the code. And we're also going to go over function arguments, which are the variables or data you pass in to your function. And then finally, the return statements of the functions, which as you continue your learning through Python, is going to be a very important and very common skill you are going to use. So first, let's get into it. So first, how do you actually start writing a function? It's kind of a little bit different when just writing any code. You have to start with a line defining it. So here's just an example of it. So you first, to create any functions, you type def, which stands for define, and then you type in any name you want for the function. So here is the name of the function. I'm making this as a comment so that you every time you want to write and you kind of forgot, you can just go back to it. I'm not going to make it run. So this can be any name, like if you want to make it relative to your code, but it's just don't make every function name of the function. But this is just an example, and now we're going to actually write one and see. So just the most easy one. Remember to have a bracket here after the function name. We will see later that this is not always empty if we want to add a function argument or passing anything. But in this case, it will make it empty. Don't forget about it. And you can see after you write a colon, yeah, also don't forget the colon. It will automatically take you to the second line, but also with a tab. This is called indentation, which in the function case indicates this codes are, whatever you write codes here, it's in this function. So I'm just gonna write the easy print function. I'm gonna print hello world. So yeah, the function can be as easy as this. So let's see what happens after we run it. So you can see nothing was printed in this console, but I actually included print statement in my codes. So why? That is because your function was not called. That's why it does not go through. So just writing these two lines and defining the function does not make it kind of work. So what you have to do is call it. Calling it just means that you want it going through the indented part of the code, and then it can be used multiple times, printed or call it multiple times through the code. So by typing the name of the function and adding the bracket, we'll call the function. So now you can see the print statement was gone through by the computer and hello world is printed. This is the full cycle of using and defining a function. So all of these are very the basic ones. Now we're going to do the functions that we see more often in our actual like coding career or life. it is the ones with the function argument. So what is the function argument? As I briefly talked about last weekend at the beginning, it was the data passed in to the function. So as you can see, the function I write here just a moment ago, no matter what you do, you just call the function, and the only possibility is that you printed hello world. But there are a lot of functions that you want it to print or do different things based on different circumstances. So one of these circumstances can be based on the data you have. So sometimes you just want to pass in the data and it do different things for you based on your data. So how do you do that? It's very easy. It's just adding a variable name in the brackets. So let's try it. So for this function, I want to pass in the integer of your age. So I'm going to name this variable age. So age is actually a variable. So here I'm gonna still use the print function, but I'm gonna incorporate with what I'm gonna input in. And if you want it to work, never forget to call it. My age is 16, so I'm gonna use it. And you can see here, it prints, I am 16 years old. And if you put in a different number, like 20, the printed, the statement will be different. So now I'm 20 years old. And if a function you created that requires you prints to have input, like it contains a function argument, you cannot call it without inputting anything. So let's try it. Like I still have an empty bracket, even though it tells me to input an age. It shows an error. So some of the functions not only requires you for like one input, it might need multiple ones. You can also include as many inputs as possible by separating those individual variables using commas inside of those brackets. So I'm gonna make another example of ones that requires 2 variables and 2 inputs when calling it. So this time I'm gonna input age and also my school. The school, by school actually means like you're going to high school, middle school, elementary school, or like college. But it's just an example. I'm gonna print Don't forget to call it. And also this, be careful that the age should be an integer and the school should be a string. So here you can see printed in the console, I'm 16 years old and I'm a high school student. Same, you can change anything here and it would actually change what the function does for you. So that's how and why sometimes you need an input variable or a function argument. So now we have gone over some of, I believe, the most important parts of the beginning of learning functions. But many may ask, how is it different than just coding regularly? Like, why do we have to define it and create named variables and then we just call it? Why don't we just write what the code in the middle has? So it is because that all of these functions can be used over and over again. And sometimes when we are coding a very long program that you don't want to code the stuff contained in the function over and over again. You might use it for 10 times and you don't want to copy and paste the code for 10 times. So just calling it using one line is a lot less work and easier for people to read, to modify, and it is very convenient. So now it's time for us to have a little practice. So our first challenge here today is create a function that prints the first variable times the second variable and then plus 1. So yeah, I will be giving some time for you guys to try, and I will be going over the answers afterwards. So good luck. And it is not the second variable plus 1, but you time first and then plus 1. Let me make it clear. And you can set any to call it with any 2 different variables if you want. I recommend to try different sets of numbers to verify if your functions works correctly for every 2 set of numbers. As long as it works fine, it doesn't matter what number you input. Yeah, I hope everyone are done now. So I will be explaining my way of doing it. So I just name it challenge 1, but in your actual coding, you kind of wanted to be related. The name should be related to what you want to do. But for this class, for you guys to can easily see what I'm coding for, I will be just naming it challenge or the example. So you can see what they want us to do is print number 1 times number 2. So here we also have some review in our mathematic operations. And then plus 1. Don't forget to call. So I'm going to choose numbers set 4 and 2. So it should be, the answer should be 9. Let's see. Exactly, 9 was printed here. So yeah, I hope this was okay for everyone. And if you have questions, don't hesitate, just type in the chat. So now for till now, everything we included in the function are kind of just very simple ones like print or simple math. But I just don't want you guys to believe that function only can contain those like easy commands. So actually what functions can contains up to 10 lines, 100 lines, as many as you want. And it can be very complicated. It can contain all these kind of loops, if statements. It can also pass in like lists, what we go over last week. So don't actually limit your ideas about using functions as printing stuff out. That would be such a limitation for you and for your coding life. So now we're gonna go straight into another challenge, which you're gonna incorporate with what you learned from week 1 and week 2. I definitely trust you guys can do it, but it definitely requires some kind of logical coding, whether you use it wasn't very hard. Just try it, but it definitely contains if statements and like booleans, what we learned. So it's actually just a function that prints the larger input. So you have 2 inputs, 2 variables. Print the larger variable. So yeah, let's just try it. A little hint, you might need to use if, and then comparing these 2 numbers, how we like to do it, and then you call it again. Try different sets of numbers. The first one is larger, the second one is larger, and then run the function, run the program, and see if you get the correct results. Similarly, I'll be explaining the answers in a few minutes. Let's get started. Okay. I suppose it's okay for everyone. If it's kind of struggling, then we'll review the other Python commands together. So again, we still have two variables. I just named a number here because we're not encoding actually something with meaning. Again, if you're coding with a meaning, then name it what you want it to be, just like I name it age here. So first, I'm going to use if, because there are two different possibilities. One is number 1 greater than number 2. The second one is number 2 greater than number 1. And we wanted to print different numbers. So we're going to let it run different codes based on different situations. The first situation is number 1 greater than number 2. Actually, when I'm making this question, I was thinking about already assuming that number 1 don't equal to number 2. But you can actually write here, if you consider that possibility, actually you can write greater and equal to, greater or equal to. Because if it's equal to, you print out number 1, it's still kind of the greater one because it's the same. And only the other possibility is number 2 is greater, not equal to. So else print number 2. Again, else means the stuff, the conditions, the situation that does not fit the first or the previous if statement. You call the functions. Sorry. Maybe 2 and 3. And you can see the greater one, which is 3, is printed. Let me make 4 here. So the greater one is then 4. Since I just think about the 2 being equal, let's check that too. And then 3 was print because all of them are the same, and just print that number. And now, last but not least, we're going to talk about the returns in the function. So what it basically do is it takes out a value from the function and store it that you can use it outside the function. So the value from the function and store it. So the ultimate goal for it is that the number you get from the function, you don't have to actually print it. So you can see everything we do, we want to show it in our console, we use print. But what if we don't want to print it out, but we want to continue to use it maybe in other codes outside the function? We are going to use return to do that. So first, let's consider. We want to create a simple function that, returns the input plus 3. That's very simple for everyone. So you might consider like number equals to number plus 3, which is what we do when we code in the main, like outside of the function, we do that. And the number is stored as number plus 3. And then instead of printing it in the function and calling it, we want to print so here, as I write this code, I wish it to print the answer, like what calling of the function brings me, and you print it out. So I assume I will be printing out 6 because 3 plus 3. Let's try it. But it doesn't work, right? You can see here it's printed none. So why does it happen? So this one has the result of none. But why does it happen? So as you can see, yes, inside the function, number is stored as number plus 3. So in this case, number is stored as 6. If we want to print it and it doesn't work, it's because what it stored in the function stays in the function unless you say you want it to use it, you want to bring it outside. What is that clue word? It is the return. So how do we modify, how do we change this function a bit in order for us to be able to print outside of the function? Let's define another function. So everything will the same here. But instead of saying number equals to number plus 3, I'm going to return number plus 3. The return just means bringing the value outside, to the outside of the function. So you're going to want to return it. So you want to bring the value of number plus 3 to the outside. But after you bring it out, how do you access it? The same as this. So you call the function and it automatically stores the stuff you want to bring out, the stuff you return. So function, this is example 5. And then let's do the same, example 3. Then you can see for this time, the targeted value, which is 6, was printed out. Because for most of the times in advanced programming, you don't usually necessary to print stuff after you use a function. And most time you kind of get a value in a function and you bring outside, you return it, and you have to continue to use it, and the value have to continue to go through other codes or other functions. So return is very oftenly used. And so for now, I'm gonna incorporate with our previous challenge into a different challenge that requires return. So this one is first find a larger number. Also in the larger one in the 2 of the variables. But then outside of the function, print if the larger number you already picked is greater than 5. So here it also contains a bit of Boolean knowledge, but just a hint, actually very obvious, you definitely need to return stuff from the function, and then you need to write kind of another statement that involves in comparing that number the greater number with 5 and then print it out. So I'll give a little bit more time for this and let's try it. It shouldn't be very different than the previous challenge, so don't stress out too much. Yeah, I hope that will be enough time. So I'll kind of go through kind of a little slow with us, so we can actually review more about the concept of a return. I know it can be a lot confusing when you just know about this, but after you do a lot of practice and you code a lot, you return is very kind of easy to understand and very natural to you. So don't worry about it if you don't feel completely comfortable. But this logic is the same as the previous one. I will still add the equals, what I just think about. But now we don't want to print the number out. We want to use it later to compare with 5. So how do we use it later? We return it. So if number 1 is greater, we're going to use number 1 to compare. So return number 1. And we still have the else. And that is number 2 is greater than number 1. So number 2 is comparing, return number 2. The last part. So we're going to print whether if the greater number is greater than 5. So we are going to compare this two. So we want to put true if it is greater and false if it's not, even though it was not written here, but if kind of indicates a Boolean value, I kind of also want that to be like a review. So we first call it and get the value we want to return here. Put any number as your input. I'll first put 4 and 2 as well. That's the previous challenge. And greater than 5. This comparison will actually make you print the Boolean. So I think you guys go over it. So yeah, it directly prints it. So you can see the greater number between 4 and 2 is 4 and is not greater than 5, so false is printed. Let's see if I change to 6. And then it becomes true because 6 is greater than 5. And now I hope these practices and examples help you to understand the concepts for functions for today. And I'm gonna pass on to Clara, who's gonna explain about the Python turtle, and then later we have a turtle project. So thank you very much for listening to my my class or me talking, and yeah, hopefully you enjoy the next part as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Clara and I'm the other vice president of House of Code. Sorry, my reply is not responding. Just give me a few seconds to reload it. And I'm also going to share my screen. So for the last half of the class, I'm going to focus on Turtle. So what is Turtle? Turtle is a library in Python. So it is able to draw pictures or like draw simple pictures or lines using the Python code. So since it is a library and it is not in the like the main Python code library, so we have to import it. So the first step is to import Turtle. So without this line, it will all the other code will give you an error. And the second step is to create a canvas in order for us to draw on that. So I'm going to do canvas equals to turtle bucket spring. And next we have to create a pen. I'm going to name it as T. Okay. So that's the basic setups that we have to do before we start to code. So let's run it and see what happens. Yeah, and as you can see, there is a small canvas showed up, and our pen, which is called Turtle or T, is in the middle. So I'm going to teach you how to draw the basic stuff such as a line or shapes. So how to draw a line? And there's the function is called forward. So since it's a library and you just create a variable based on the function it's kind of difficult to explain. So what you're going to do is do t dot forward and put in the distance. So if you name the pen as the other cells does, such as pen or turtle, then you also have to change the name right here. I'm just going to use T since that's the easiest way. And let's click run again. And you will be able to see a line. And well, how can we make it to turn to other directions? So we can use T dot right and T dot left. Inside the parentheses, we have to put the angle that you want it to turn. For example, if you want the pen to turn left 90 degrees, then you have to do T dot left 90 and the same for the right. Yep. So let's draw a square based on what we just learned. Since the four sides of a square are all equal, you can just repeat the steps 4 times. And we're able to draw a square. And as you can see, those are duplicates. They're all the 4 steps are the same, so we can use a for loop instead of repeating the same code. And same for a triangle. So the angle for the triangle is, since you're turning right, it's 120. Yep. And through this way, you can draw shapes like a pentagon or octagon. You just have to change the angle. And next, I'll teach you the other things, other ways to make the pen move. You can use t.goto to make it land on a specific coordinate. For example, if I want the pen to land on 10, 10, then I just put the coordinate inside the parentheses. And as you can see, the pen jumped to the 10, 10, which is the coordinate that I provided. So let's change the coordinate to make it more obvious. So you might notice that even the go-to function will make the pen still draw a line from its original place. So what if I don't want the line? I just want the pen to move to the place that I want. Then we can use to pen dot up, t dot pen up and t dot pen down. So this way, all the code between pen up and pen down will only move the place of the pen without drawing anything on the canvas. Yeah, as you can see, the pen moves to 50-50 without the line between. So we can do other things with turtle, such as change the canvas color. We can do t.bg color, which is stand for background color, and put in the color that we want the canvas to be. So, and we can also change the color for the pen and the color for the line. So the other two very useful function that I found is t dot circle and t dot dot. So t dot circle can draw a circle based on the radius that you provided. For example, if I want a circle which has a radius of 50, I can just put the radius inside the parentheses. Let's see. Yeah, and it will draw a circle for you. And t dot dot is the same. It's just a circle with the fill with the color fills in. Let's do a t dot dot 3. Yep. So you might notice that the number for circle is referencing to the radius, and the 50 for the dots is referencing for the diameter. So you also have to take notice for that. So you might be thinking that the pen is moving too slow. So how to change the speed for the pen is also really simple. It's just t dot speed. And if, for example, if I want to set the speed to 50, just put the speed I want inside parentheses. So in this case, I will draw much quicker. Yep. Let's pick this. And also you can change the pen size. Let's see, where should I put the code? So you can see that after I change the pen size, the line that the that the pen draws become more wider. I'm not sure if you can choose decimals here. Yeah, you can. So you can customize based on that. So the last basic functions I'm going to teach is filling. So you might notice that only t dot dot can fill the shapes that we created. So what if I want to fill the triangle or a square that I created? We can use t dot fill. So it's similar to the pen up, which you have pen up and pen down, which you have to create a start point or state a start point. So it's t dot start fill. So in this way, the code, the Python will know that you want to fill in which shape you want it to fill. Start fill. Let me check. Start. Begin. Yep. So you can see the triangle has been filled with red. So that's because our pen is set up to red. So the color that it fills in will automatically be red also. So how can we combine it with the with other stuff such as loops, for loops, while loops, or functions? We can use the for loop to draw some interesting shapes. For example, yep. So we can create many interesting shapes based on the for loops, while loops, or functions. So that's just a small example. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat. And let's do a quick challenge. Let's draw a square with yellow borders and fill the square with red. So it is a very simple challenge. It's just to test that you understand how to set up turtle and draw basic shapes with it. And the size of the square is depends on you. I'll give you around 3 to 4 minutes since it's not a hard challenge. Okay, and now I will show the answer. Let's comment out the other code for now. So to start, let's draw a square first. So that's a really basic square. So in order for the square to have yellow borders, we have to set the pen color to yellow. And let's fill in the square. Other than change the pen color, we can also use fill color, because if you change the pen color, then if you want to draw something else, then you have to change the pen color back, and that is one more line of code. So we can use the fill color to only change the color for filling. So that is a square with yellow borders and the red filling. Okay, since we only have 15 minutes left of class, I will just post the final project of turtle. So the project is using turtle, draw out a magic circle. So you can create it in any way you want. It is not restricted in any way, like you can do it in any color, any size. So I'll show a really simple example. So this is a really simple magic circle that I did before class. So let's see what does it look like. Yeah, so like that. So I highly recommend to use something like loops, such as for loops and while loops. If you want to further enhance your code, you can put the magic circle that you created inside a function. And if any of you guys want to share your magic circle at the end of the class, I will share it. But if none of you guys want to share out, then I will share another magic circle that I created. Okay, hope everyone has finished the magic circle. So since no one has posted their code in the chat, I'm going to share the pro version of this magic circle that I created. We don't have much time left in the class, so I'm just going to paste my code over here. Even though the code seems very long, it's basically the same, just more shapes and more colors. So I only used what we have learned today. So let's see. Oh, all right, I have to change the name also. Yep. So I just expand the shape based on the very small magic circle that I created at the beginning. So as you can see, even though the turtle can only draw lines or basic shapes, you still can create some creative graphics with that. So it is really close to the end of our class, and I think that will be it. We have teach the basics, basic functions and things you have to learn of Python, and also the turtle, which is an interesting way that you can play on yourself. So thank you for everyone who has attended our class. So thank you for supporting our club. And hope to see you guys next time in our other activities. And if you have any other questions of Python, feel free to post it in the chat. Yep, otherwise feel free to leave. I'll stay here for another 2 minutes.